Those dangers didn't begin to compare with ones that existed today. There was no adequate description for what she found herself fretting about regularly. Modern technology no longer seemed like her best friend. It bit wrong. This time it may have bitten her badly. Scarpetta's BlackBerry was a microcosm of her personal and professional life, containing phone numbers and emails.
So funny.
Being sent for compromise if an ill-intended individual got hold of their private information. She was most protective of the family, of those left behind in the wake of a tragic death. In a way, these survivors became her patients too, depending on her for information, calling her about a detail they suddenly remembered, a question, a theory, simply needing to talk, often at anniversaries, or at this time of year, a holiday. The confidence is
Gracie is confused. Do you hear me? She's just like, what is going on? He's trying to hide from her. What?
A person who worked for a cable news network, for example, came across some of these names. Many of them associated with highly publicized cases.
Look on her.
She was the last person Scarpetta had talked to at about 7:45 p.m. after getting off the conference call with Berger, hurrying to get ready for CNN. Mrs. Darien had called Scarpetta's BlackBerry near hysteria because the press release that identified Tony Darien by name also had stated she'd been sexually assaulted and beaten to death. Mrs. Darien had been confused and panicked, had assumed a blow to the head was different from being beaten to death, and nothing Scarpetta could tell her had been reassuring. Scarpetta hadn't been dishonest. She hadn't been misleading. It wasn't her press release, wasn't her wording. And as difficult as it was, Mrs. Darien needed to understand why Scarpetta couldn't go into any more detail than she already had. She was so sorry that she simply couldn't discuss the case further. Remember what I said?